It's pretty unbelievable. Yeah. There's no dark spots. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I am Rabbi Scott Kramer. Welcome to those in our sanctuary and online. We are praying out of Sidor Lev Shalem. And we begin on page 5 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should have hair dryers so we can dry everybody off. For those that are online, we have a downpour that just started about 15 minutes ago as people were pulling up. We continue page 11, Psalm 95. Lechu nechanena, lechu nechanena, lechu nechanena l'Adonai, lechu nechanena, lechu nechanena, lechu nechanena l'Adonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Nekadma Fana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena l'Adonai. Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena l'Adonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Nekadma Fana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. We continue in English. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector filled with thanks. Let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai who formed us. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Merivah, like the time at Massah in the desert when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they'd seen what I had wrought. Arbaim shanakut bedor v'amam to'eh levavim v'hem lo yadu derachai asher nishpati v'api im yavon el menuchati. We continue page 13 responsively. Emily, would you lead us? Tell the nations of God's glory. Speak of God's wonders among the peoples. For Adonai is great, surely to be praised, more revered than other gods. For the gods of the nations are man-made idols, but Adonai fashioned the very heavens.
Reign, rule, and glory are God's conqueror. Strength and joy where God is found. Offer to Adonai, peoples of the world. Offer to Adonai honor and strength. Offer to Adonai the honor due God's name. Bring a gift of thanksgiving and peace.
Bow to Adonai in the glory of his holy place. Tremble before God's presence, all who dwell on earth. Announce among the nations, Adonai reigns. The land is firm and will not be moved. People will be truthfully judged.
The heavens shall delay and the earth rejoice. The sea and its fullness roar. The meadows and all that grows in them exult. Even the trees of the forest shall sing praise. As Adonai comes to judge the earth, judging lands with righteousness and peoples with divine truth.
Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel betzedek, v'yamim be'emunato. We continue responsibly on page 15. Betty, would you lead us, please?
Adonai reigns. Let the earth be glad, and many distant lands rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness
Crown the divine righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about.
flashes of lightning illumine the land. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the master of all the earth.
The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory.
Worshippers of idols be shamed, for praising false gods. All that is deep supreme bow before God.
Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exult as you, Adonai, pass judgment.
You, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine.
Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful.
Light is song for the righteous, and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name.
Or Zarula Tzadik will Israel have simcha, simchu tzadikim badunai, v'hodu lezecher kadesho. Page 17, Psalm 98. Mizmor shiru ladonai shir chadash, ki niflaot asa hoshia lo yemino. Ozaro wakod shoadia Adonai Yeshuato le'ena goyim gilatzit kato zachar chasta ve'emunato levei Yisrael ra'u cholav se'aretz et Yeshuat Eloheinu horiu l'Adonai kol haaretz B'tchum v'ranenu v'zameru zamru l'Adonai b'chinar v'kol zimara b'chatzot rod v'kol shofar hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai yiramayam umaloho tevel v'yoshveva neharot yimcha uchaf Yachad harim yiranenu lifnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz yishbot tevel b'tzedek v'yamim b'meisharim yalai lalai 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 yalai lalai 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 yalai lalai 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 Yalai la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Page 19, Psalm 99. Adonai reigns, nations tremble. The one enthroned amidst the cherubim makes the world quake. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forge the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel among those who called upon the divine name, called to you and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. You answered them, Adonai our God. You were a forgiving God to them, even as you punished them for their transgressions. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kadosho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, if you're able, page 21 for Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod vos, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el kavod yirim Adonai hamayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai be'adar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et al ze halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Levanon v'siryon kemo ven reimim, Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yecholel Ayalot, Vayechesop Yaharod, Uvehechalo Kulo Omer Kavod, Adonai Lamabul Yashav, Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Liam Uyiten, Adonai Yivarech et Amo Vashalom. You may be seated. We continue with Lechadodi, page 23. Lechadodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmianu elam yuchad, Adonai echad u'shamo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litila lecha, Dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekora beracha merosh mikedem nesucha, Sov maaseh b'machshvat chila lecha, Dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Mikdash melech ir melucha, Kumitzi mitocha hafecha ravlach shevet b'yemek habacha, V'hu yachamohu alaychem lalecha, Dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. We rise and we turn to page 25 for the last stanza of Lechadodi. Bo'i v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'v'tzala, Tochem munei am segula, Bo'i chala lecha, Dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. You may be seated. We continue with Psalm 92 on page 27. Joy, would you lead us?
It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night.
Pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up.
You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork.
How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs.
The
dew or blossoms, only to be destroyed forever.
But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time.
Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered.
As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil.
As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear.
The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards.
In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw.
Tzadik tamar yifrach ki erez balvanon yiske shetuli beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yeyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabo. Page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you were enthroned, you are eternal. In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. Shabbat shalom to everyone. So, what was your first impression when you entered the sanctuary tonight? The light. Let there be light, right? So they did come in and they changed all the bulbs. We already have one out here, but I don't think there's a dark spot in the sanctuary. So it looks, it's very different from up here. Looking at I can see every seat. Usually I could pick out all the darkness. So 3 clergymen were discussing mortality when one of them asked the question, when you are in your casket and friends, family, and congregants are mourning over you, what would you like to hear them say? Without hesitation, the Episcopal priest said, I would like to hear them say that I was a wonderful husband, a fine spiritual leader, and a great family man. He no sooner finished than the Catholic priest advised, I would like to hear that I was a wonderful teacher and a servant to God who made a huge difference in people's lives. The rabbi thought for a moment and said, I would like to hear them say, look, he's moving. Oh, Jewish humor. What can I say? The Torah portion this week is the one that has the Shema in it. And when we think of the Shema, we think of Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, but it also contains that first paragraph, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. And you shall love the Lord your God. First of all, it's interesting to note that the Shema itself, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, is written in the first person plural. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Whereas our verse, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, which is the very next verse in the Torah, speaks in the second person singular. And you shall love the Lord your God. The first line, which is universally thought of when someone says the Shema, represents a collective reciting of the statement That is the closest of all statements in the Torah, hinting at a creed. It is a sort of catechism, and it also is supposed to be the last words one recites with his or her last breath. The very next line, which starts the first paragraph of the Shema, switches immediately to the second person singular. So the community recitation is complete with the end of the first line, the line with the Shema in it. The commandment that follows is personal and given to the individual directly by God. You shall love the Lord your God. So when that's a very strange sentence, right? You shall. It's a commandment. It says, you shall. I command you to love me. God is saying, I command you to love the Lord your God. But when we think of the word love, we all conjure up something different, something unique to our own personal experiences. At some point in our lives, we all have someone that we fall in love with romantically. We have love of parents who we greatly appreciate or are supposed to, for giving us life and nurturing us when we are growing up and beyond. We have friends that we have special relationships with, which we also call love, but it's different from the other two. We have love of material objects, but this is more like cravings. We also love places that have special meanings in our memories. Praying at the wall in Jerusalem is one of the most special places in my heart that I love. What does it mean to love God? And more specifically, how can there be a command to love God? Does not love just happen? No one plans it or has any control over it. This is a very perplexing command indeed. So I want to explore what Rashi has to say about this verse. And his comment is very telling about the problem as seen in the medieval French rabbi's eyes. So he says, V'ahavta, thou shalt love, he comments, perform his commandments out of love. One cannot compare him who acts out of love to him who acts out of fear. Him who serves his master out of fear, when the latter overburdens him, he leaves him and goes away. Rashi is saying that this love is more like the love of a parent. It is better to obey a parent out of love than out of fear. Turned around and said another way, I think Rashi is giving us a lesson in parenting. We should use love rather than fear when raising our children. How many of us were raised with the latter method rather than the former? How many of us raised our children with the latter rather than the former? Fear is a much easier deterrent to use. Fear can have damaging consequences, as we see by how many of our children of this and the last are in need of supportive professional help due to the perceived notion of what our parents did to us or what mistakes they made with us. But notice the command by God is not given to the parent. It is given to us. God is not telling the parent to discipline the child with love. God is telling us, the children, how to relate to our parents. We should give them unconditional love back, no matter how imperfect they might be. In this time after Tisha B'Av, which was this past Wednesday night and Thursday, which is also the true beginning of the season of repentance, we should examine our feelings for those that we love or are supposed to love and turn that into real love, even if in our imperfect and often erring mind, they don't seem to deserve it. You have a while to work on this until the gates close on Yom Kippur. Shabbat Shalom. We will continue our service. Please rise. page 39A, for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets out the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rose light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. U'mahavir yom u'mevi laila, mavdil ben yom u'vein laila, Adonai Tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu l'olam voed. Baruch atah Adonai. Amari v'aravim, page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amchavta. Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumenu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha uv'mitzvotecha leolam voed. Ki em chayenu v'orech yameinu uvahem anege yomam v'layla v'yavatcha tasim imenu la'olamin. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ho'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom levavecha v'hishinanetam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shachpecha v'kumecha u'kshartam niot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtav nam zuzot beitecha uv'isharecha v'hayim shamo tishma'u mitzvata asher nachi mitzavetechem hayim li'ava et Adonai Elohechem u'lavdo. Ben yivdem echarochem nisartem. Yedechem v'yula tatvat b'neinechem. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber El b'nei Yisrael v'yamarta lehem v'yasu lehem tzitzit al kanfe v'ignehem ledoratam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf b'til techelet v'yalachem letzitzit uritem oto uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam v'lo tatu racharei levavchem v'yacharei nechem asher temzonim achareihem leman dizgaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Eloechem Asher hotzehiti etachem me'eretz Mitzrayim leot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem. Emet. Page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God and there is none other. And we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh and offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom and led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds. As their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. U'malchuta b'ratzon kibaleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael hanishira b'simcha rabba v'yameru chulam mi chamocha b'el Adonai mi chamocha nedor b'kodesh Nahura tehilot o seifele Malchut techaga uvenecha bo kiyam lifnei Moshe Zeli anu v'yameru Adonai yimloch leolam v'ed v'nehemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov ugalod miad chazak mimenu baruch et Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Page 45. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with good counsel and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. For you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch et Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all Israel, and over Jerusalem. We rise for Vishamru, page 46. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. We continue with the Friday night silent Amidah, pages 47 through 52. Pray in Hebrew, pray in English, or pray in the best language of all the language of the heart. Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We rise as the ark is open, page 56 for Elena. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol atekedu lal yotzer b'reshit shalo asani k'goyei ha'aratzot v'lo samanu k'mishmachot ha'adama shalo sam chelkeinu kain v'goraleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומשה יקרא בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו הבל זולתו Kakatu betorato, viadata hayam vashivota elevavecha, ki Adonai Elohim, bashamayim mima, vial haaretz mi tachat ein od al kein Kakadu b'toratech Adonai mloch le'lam v'ho'ed v'nehemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom mahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You may be seated. This week we will observe yard sites for Elijah Drexler, Teresa Montiero Soares, Sally Golem, Esther Mandelbaum, Ethel Center, Muriel Finkelstein, Charles Goldstein, Esther J. Hassan, Steve Melnick, Nancy Blanchard, Jeanette Fine Solomon, Rachel Jaffe, Judy Helfin, Elsie Katz, Buena J. Bain, and Sarah Tabachnikov. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise, page 58, and join me for the Kadisha tone, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba, v'yomad divrach chirutei, v'yamlech malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayedechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalav izman karivi marhu amen, Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'elam Olmel Maya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitba'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Kudisha Barichu Le'elam Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbachata V'nechamata Da'amiran V'yoma V'yimaru Amen Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imheru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imheru amen. You may be seated. Thank you for joining us this evening for Kabbalat Shabbat. Thank you to everyone in our sanctuary and to those online. I hope those in the sanctuary enjoyed the light, the new light that we have. Services will continue tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. And then we will celebrate the end of Shabbat with Havdalah via Zoom with the Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah, which meets tomorrow night at 8:30. Beginning in August, we're going to move the time to 8 o'clock. And in September, we're going to move it again. So, but for tomorrow night, it'll still be at 8:30 p.m. And that is it. We will conclude our service on page 211 with Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam v'yacharei kichlot hakol Levado yamloch nara Adon Olam v'hu aya v'hu oveh v'hu yeh b'tifara Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam Vehu echad v'yein sheni laham shelo lahachbira Adon Olam beli reshit beli tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam Vehu Eli v'chai goali v'tzorchev li b'yetzara Adon Olam Vehu nisi umanos li minat kosi b'yom ekra Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam Biyado afkid ruchi bi'etishan v'ya'ira Adon Olam v'imaruchi geviati Adon Oli v'lo ira Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam. Shabbat Shalom.